Jamie Dornan and Dakota Johnson's once tight relationship collapses, and can't be saved. When 50 Shades of Grey first premiered in 2015, Jamie Dornan and Dakota Johnson instantly became Hollywood's iconic couple. Not only did they captivate viewers with their daring scenes, but they also made audiences believe that somewhere between them was a real bond, even though they were just colleagues. In interviews, they laughed, joked, and created a chemistry that few actors could achieve. But behind the laughter in front of the camera, there were quiet moments that grew over the years. "We had a beautiful friendship," Dakota Johnson shared in a recent interview with Faux Hollywood magazine. "But something changed, and now there's no going back." Jamie Dornan, in a brief appearance on the Inside the Grey podcast, was also unabashed. "I don't trust Dakota anymore like I used to. We've gone too far to turn back. The flame that burns." What happened? According to inside sources, fictional in this article, the conflict between Jamie and Dakota began to simmer during post-production of 50 Shades Freed, the final film in the famous trilogy. Both had different opinions on how to handle the characters in important scenes. Dakota wanted to direct Anna to become stronger and more independent, while Jamie thought that changing too quickly would break the emotional flow between the two characters. "He started to interfere in things that were not his responsibility," Dakota said indignantly. "I'm an actor, and I know how my character should be portrayed." A member of the fictional film crew also recounted that, in closed meetings, the two often argued fiercely, and on one occasion Jamie walked off the set midway through. "No one thought it would get that serious," the person said. "At the time, everyone believed it was just work pressure. But looking back, it was clearly the beginning of an irreparable rift, a silent war behind the lights." The end of the 50 Shades series should have been a time of freedom and relief for both of them. But no, their already fractured relationship was pushed to a new limit when they participated in a global promotional campaign that lasted nearly a year. Once again, they were forced to play the role of Hollywood's golden couple, even though they were filled with distance and discomfort. "We had to sit next to each other, smile, answer questions about close friendship, while we couldn't even look each other in the eye," Dakota said. Jamie was different. He chose to stay silent. But in a rare article for Actors on Acting magazine, he revealed a bit about his feelings. "There are those companions who you think will be there for you throughout your career. But then, when that trust is broken, you have to walk alone." The two began avoiding each other at events. When Dakota appeared at the Venice Film Festival, Jamie did not show up. Conversely, at Jamie's indie film premiere in Toronto, Dakota was busy with personal schedules. The public began to notice, but no one was sure what was really going on between them. Things came to a head during a brief reunion between the two, not for a new film, but for a high-end perfume commercial they had both signed onto. The shoot took place in Paris, and lasted just 2 days. But according to one of the crew, it was the longest 2 days of our careers. Everything seemed fine until the director asked him to do a spontaneous laugh scene together. Jamie joked casually, "Oh, Dakota doesn't like to laugh around me anymore." The atmosphere immediately froze. Dakota walked off the set without saying a word. Nearly an hour later, she returned, stood in front of Jamie, and said bluntly, "I don't need you here anymore. We're done, completely done." Jamie was silent. Not because he had nothing to say, but because he knew, at that moment, any words would be meaningless. Rumors, pressure, and insiders' explanations. When news leaked to the media that Jamie and Dakota couldn't see eye to eye, both were caught up in a whirlwind of rumors. Some tabloids even claimed that Dakota had been in love with Jamie, and that Jamie had cruelly rejected her. It was all false, Dakota said in a conversation with an independent magazine. I never loved Jamie. But I respected him a lot, and he destroyed that. She insisted that the conflict was not about personal feelings, but about repeated disrespect. Jamie didn't sit still, either. In a brief interview on BBC Radio 2, he said, "I think we don't get along as people. When I work, I have a very particular approach. Maybe that's what makes people uncomfortable." However, he does not deny that the last years of working with Dakota were suffocatingly difficult. No more names, no more exists. Gradually, Jamie and Dakota both made an unspoken agreement: erase each other from public life. At press conferences, reporters were asked not to ask about each other. In individual interviews, when asked about 50 Shades, both only mentioned old projects or past movies, never mentioning the other by name. Sharp-eyed fans quickly noticed Dakota no longer follows Jamie on social media. Jamie quietly removed all photos related to the film from her personal accounts. Both declined Universal's invitation to appear in a program celebrating the 10th anniversary of the release of 50 Shades of Grey. "It's heartbreaking," one longtime fan wrote on Twitter. "I used to believe they were friends, teammates. Now watching them quietly dismiss each other as if they never existed, I feel lost." Part 7, The Last Words, and the Uncomfortable Divorce. No one expected them to work together again. But fans still hoped, even behind the scenes, they could reconcile. However, all doors have been slammed shut. In a rare instance, Dakota made her stance clear on the talk show The Other Side. "I don't believe in pretending. If someone breaks your trust, makes you feel small, makes you suffer in silence for years, you don't owe them forgiveness. You owe yourself peace." At the same time, Jamie also wrote on his personal account, "Not all old friends should be kept. There are things that can't be fixed, so it's best to accept and let go." That was the first and last time they spoke about each other, each in their own way, as an unmistakable declaration. They had officially broken up. No more cooperation, no more friendship, no more greetings. Nothing.